Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations with Khofane. I'm Khofane Modise, and today I'm joined by a very brilliant gentleman by the name of Kagiso Fredericks, and we're talking about a lot of topics. But before we even get into that, hi, Kagiso.
I hope I,
How
I
are you?
heard you say brilliant. I don't know what
Very
you're talking
brilliant.
about, but thank you.
How are you doing?
Yeah, all is well, all is well.
Yeah,
How are things your side?
I like the way you're dressed.
Yeah, I tried to match your outfit, so.
So before we get into the topic we'll be talking about, can you just share who you are, your background, and your career history?
So Kagiso Fredericks, yeah, I'm fairly ancient, so we won't get into age before we get ageist. Born and bred from Kimberley, so that's where I was raised. And as things would have it, I'm in the mining industry. Again, going back to Kimberley. I've been in the industry for about 20 years now, where for the last, I guess, 3 years, I've been more involved in business development. Prior to that, I was into customer sales, and then I did a bit of production at the earlier stages of my career.
Yeah.
So that's, I guess, me from a career perspective, hometown Kimberley. Yeah.
Yeah. And what do you think has driven you? Because, typically coming from a hometown, it's easy to stay comfortable in that space.
What has driven me? Look, a lot of things have driven me, but just talking about being driven. I wrote something the other day in one of the courses I'm doing about just my journey, right? And with that, what I did was really reflect on my life and how I make decisions I make and why. Right. So what has driven me, maybe rather who has driven me?
That's a good one.
So yeah, my mom is driven, I think, most of what I've done or what I've been able to achieve, be it, in the workspace, be it at scholarly level and business as well. So yeah, she's the one that's driven me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know whenever you do your interviews, it's always about a particular subject matter, but I'd really like to get into knowing you.
Okay.
And and I appreciate how it doesn't seem like the things that you've got into, especially from a career and academic level, they're not so differently or sparsely apart. So you're talking about mining, you're talking about business development. They all seem aligned and very strategic as well. So why is that? Is that something that you had long planned, that this is going to be your 10-year plan, or everything has just fallen into place because you've been focused?
Not really. Look, some things are planned,
Yeah.
right? And when I say that some things are planned, I remember when I was in high school, I had an ambition to be a fashion designer, right? Lo and behold, a few years later, I'm in the fashion business.
Yeah.
Not as a designer, but still very much in that business. I've always liked, or not liked, I've loved, beautiful things, and here I am, working with sparkly gems. So I guess, it's one of those that, knowing what you really appreciate in life and really striving towards achieving those, but also leave room to be adaptable, because not everything that you would aspire for would maybe happen the way you want it to. But if that goal is to say, I love beautiful things and I want to work in an industry that does beautiful things, maybe I'd also be selling makeup, but you never know. But it's just one of that, beginning with the end in mind.
Yeah.
So I think I've been very lucky that whatever aspirations I had from a young age, in most cases came through. So yeah, I think I'm being lucky in that regard. That,
Yeah.
the stars are aligning, maybe not the way I planned, but
Right.
the way they need to be aligning. And
Yeah.
I still appreciate that.
Cool. I really like that. I mean, how have you seen because being in the mining industry for 20 years, it's such an aggressive and somewhat volatile industry to be in. How has that kind of shaped how you view things and view life? Has it make you more pragmatic in how you view it? Are you more, how would I put it? Are you more hopeful, or have you seen that things work with patterns and strategy? Has that how you kind of started viewing life and your personal life as well?
Yes, all of the above. So, look, one thing with being in mining, especially in the gemstones, i.e. diamonds, right? It's really a long-term industry, and also the product is to celebrate long-term things, right? So when we look at mining, the rule of thumb is it takes about 10 years to develop a mine, right? So if you're going to go into that, you then need to have that, long-term outlook to things, because if you don't have that, then clearly you're not going to realize your investment, or you're going to give up along the way, and it's quite expensive to be giving up. I guess sometimes maybe it's cheaper to give up, but yeah, that's topic for another day.
Yeah.
So, and you've got that long term, but then you also look at, the product that we mine, i.e. diamonds. They're there to really celebrate long-term commitments. So, by virtue of that, I've always really looked at things long term. So be it from a career perspective, looking at the business, it's not what we're doing now, but that we should do now, how it's going to impact us in 2 to 3 years time. And sometimes I guess the challenge is trying to convince those you work with to look at the long term, because life is life. We look at the rents and cents, we look at where we are now, and I'm telling you, no, don't worry, 3 years from now we'll be okay. You're like, but I'm starving now. But no, don't worry, 3 years from now you'll be okay. So that's maybe just been the challenge in terms of that outlook, by looking at things long term. But it's also how I was brought up, i.e. in the industry that I grew up in. It really taught me to think long term and really be strategic about that long term view that you want to achieve.
And you've spoken a lot about diamonds.
Yeah.
That's the industry you're into. And you're talking about long term, but now I don't want to be controversial with the surgence of lab grown diamonds. What's your personal take on it? Not related to any particular entity. What's your personal take on it? Especially we're looking at the fact that diamonds are homegrown. We have diamonds within Africa. But yet, there are a lot of issues politically, governance level, etc., surrounding it. So what's been your take on?
Look, my take is, let's really be conscientious about the consumer.
What do you mean by that?
So when I say be conscientious about the consumer, is whether you do natural or you do lab grown, the consumer needs to know what the difference is. They should be priced accordingly.
Yeah.
And when I say accordingly, according to the effort that goes into it, right? So with natural diamonds, which is the area I'm from, there's a lot of effort that goes into it. Like I said, mine takes 10 years to develop. The conditions that, we need to ensure that, we have safe mining are also very expensive. So, and hence you then find that, the product is slightly pricey because of all of those different factors. So from an end consumer perspective, is really to make sure that we disclose the stone that we're selling, but also let's sell it at a rate that really shows the effort that really went into it. So disclose and let the end consumer decide.
Yeah. I like how you're very diplomatic with your answer. Pro or anti, just as long as the consumer knows. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. Look, and my view is there's place for both. Right.
Yeah.
And hence I said it's for the consumer to decide. Right. And why I say there's place for both, the one could potentially help the other to then grow, right? Yeah.
I need explanation on that.
So, talking about effort and maybe the valuation thereof, you then probably find that it's probably economically less expensive to create one as opposed to mine one, right? But once you have now achieved your financial status, etc., you can then upgrade yourself to get the mined one. So that's where the two can coexist.
Right. So all of this to get to the crux of what we're actually talking about today, before I get diverted, because this is a very interesting topic. Let's talk about beneficiation. If anyone Googles you, it's always beneficiation. Yes. Liberation of minerals. And I like how you've broken it down and how you explain it, and I don't think you'll ever get tired of it, to be honest. Let's talk about beneficiation, what it is, especially in mining, beneficiation in mining, and why you advocate for it so much.
Right. So beneficiation, as per my speech. Look, beneficiation really looks, for anybody, it focuses on two things, right? So it's transformation, the one, and then secondly is value addition, right? So, you look at different variations of beneficiation, but that's the one I sort of link to that speaks to those two things. So what they say is beneficiation is the transformation of a mineral or combination of minerals into a high value product. So the one mineral can be a diamond, where you transform it from rough to polished. The other mineral can then be, gold or platinum, that you take it from, its raw state into refinery so that it actually becomes a metal.
Yeah.
You then combine that into jewelry or, form of jewelry, and you can then consume it locally or you can export it, right? So what you're then doing is you're transforming the mineral, but second, you're also adding value to it. And once you do that, now you're beneficiating. And within you doing that process, you're also allowing for, jobs to be created. So i.e. look at the jobs which are being created through mining, right? So that's also transformation of the economy because you're now doing that, but you're also adding value to the economy. But beyond that, what you then look at is jewelry designers. So we're starting at mining, and then you cut and polish, and now you've got jewelry designers getting involved. But once the jewelry designer gets involved, they now want to brand themselves. They'll speak to somebody like you, come onto these platforms, talk about what they do. You need the videographers, you need the photographers, you need the makeup artists, you need, publicity agencies, like all of those people. But all of that is then possible because of that one diamond and, that ore that we've mined. So that's really what's all about. It's about value addition and finding ways to see how we can transform the economy so that we can all, benefit from it.
Yeah. And it sounds all great and wonderful until you're wondering why it seems so difficult to actually implement. So what are the limitations that come to beneficiation, especially looking at it from the African context? Okay.
Yeah, look, I think, some of the limitations are not just maybe related to the industry, but what I normally say is when, we sort of have an uptake on mobile phones, right? Whoever was in at the time made good money, right? Because, the demand was high, not a lot of competitors, and the first 5-10 years of anything new, you make a lot of money, right? Mining has also been associated with making a lot of money, which is true in the past. Not to say you don't make money now, you just make less money, right? So some of the challenges is just, really changing the mindset to say, if I'm going to go into this field, right, i.e. mining or cutting and polishing or even jewelry design, what am I going to do differently to what other people are doing so that I too can make, money? Because sometimes we forget that if I'm a cut or polish or even a jewelry designer, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one. There's many others doing that, right? What am I doing differently so that I can stand out, so that I can charge that premium so that I can actually make decent money? So some of the challenges it's really about us as individuals not appreciating, the effort that needs to go into this business that we venturing into, because a lot of things have changed. And if I put in the requisite effort, then I will see then the reward come at the end. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I hear you, but also I think my challenge therein comes in where it seems as though sometimes there are setbacks or limitations set by government as well, where I know in my home country, just having a gold mine alone, the challenges, the red tape is just absolutely ridiculous. And I understand why, but also it's not liberating for a citizen compared to someone Western or foreigner coming in. And if they have the financial backing and connected to the right people, then all of a sudden, this mine starts operating. So, I mean, at a governance level, where do you think that we could do better? Do we change the government? Do we vote different?
Look, you're quite right. I think maybe there's opportunity for us to look into governance. But I think before even governance, maybe let's look at how we position this, right? And when I say how we position this is, let's look at, the legislation that speaks to in either of these minerals is, I guess, very prohibitive, i.e. you need to have lots of funding, etc., etc. So that then becomes a stumbling block. But if you know from a young age that for me to own a mine, I need, arbitrarily speaking, 20 million pula or rand, now you can sort of work towards it so that you can, go to government and, give them a compelling proposition. So let's try and really educate people what goes into it, because the more educated you are, the better then you are prepared to enter into that industry, right?
100%.
But also beyond just, being, I guess, the owners thereof, what other opportunities exist alongside it.
Yes.
So mine is then to say, you can have all the minerals that you want to, right? But if you are not consuming them in country, right, then we have the situation that you speak of, right? And when I say not consuming them in country is, if I go to a bank to say I need $20 million, I want to start this mine, and the size of the market in terms of, Africa is 40 million US dollars, and I'll be able to repay it within the space of time, we can have a conversation. But if I'm saying, borrow me 20 million, I don't have customers yet, right? I don't have this, I don't have that, but don't worry, we'll figure it out. There's a lot of risk, and again, governance, you think it will be then right to say, oh, yeah, by the way, you own these diamonds, why don't we just give so-and-so a license? I don't think it's right, because again, in some cases, what you then find is, whatever mining we do would then be a contributor to, a country's source of revenue. So you don't want to tinker around with that. You don't want to play around with that. You want to make sure that whoever you invite through as investors are able to weather, the storm. And like I said, normally it's a 10-year journey. So you need to have somebody with big pockets. And in some cases, maybe those people are not in Africa.
I feel like we've been speaking at such a large scale, but earlier you mentioned how beneficiation, you spoke it at a level of value addition. So despite whichever industry you're from, you can contribute one way or another in the mining industry and kind of find your way sidelining or aligning with it to the point where you can start growing into it and actually understand how the industry goes. And do you think that's something that people just don't understand when it comes to beneficiation, that it's not, especially when it comes to beneficiation in the mining industry, it's not aloof or standalone to people in mining or people from Kimberley?
Look, you're quite right. And I think, and this is where the education comes in is, and when I say education comes in, is look at what other industries are doing in terms of educating us about what they do. And hence we can then find, a place to play within that industry. So I think, let's, educate people as much as we can. Work a bit on governance just to make sure that it's not as too flexible, but it allows people to get in and not to have too many, barriers to entry. So I guess, combination of that would, I guess, make it much more.
And then how does business development align with this concept of beneficiation?
So what business development, what we do.
You know what I feel like? Sorry to interject, is that we've just been going like it's like a rapid fire round.
No, it's fine. I mean, you guys will cut and pair
It's so good. It's so good. I'm really enjoying it. But yes, please do proceed.
Right. So what business development? The incubation program that we run, we'll be launching another one soon. So stay tuned.
Who's we?
We at the BS Group in South Africa. So we'll be launching the new enterprise development program. So ours basically is a 3-year incubation program, and with that we look at skills on financing, your strategy, which is I think very important, and then we also look at human resources, and then we also look at personal development amongst many things, and how that really helps in terms of the mind, because it's 3 years, and like I said, it takes about 10 years to unearth a mind. It's 3 years. It's quite intense. Over that 3 years, it's the same time that you need to earn a degree, which then gives you the basics. But now in that 3 years, we're not doing theory. We're looking into your business, right? And as we look into your business, you then have basically a board that's for free that will look into your business, interrogate your business, ask, difficult questions, give a few proposals, which will then allow you to look at your business in a different lens, so that, once you're done with the program, you potentially have a business that's sustainable, that's viable.
Well, what had been your observations with the businesses that you had interacted with, that you, one, caused concern, and two, that you noticed that there's a pain point here that needs to be addressed, especially with the upcoming businesses as well?
Look, it's effort, right? So it's effort, be it the businesses that I've worked with or just businesses I've observed, including, the business I'm a partner in. It's all about effort, right? And when I say effort, is there's a few reasons, at least in the diamond industry, where people go into that, right? Into the business. So I'm a polisher, and I decide, I'm tired of working for Founder Diamonds. I want to own Kagiso Diamonds, right? I'm passionate about it.
Sure.
I've got the technical skills, but I'm not a business person, right?
There you go.
Okay, it's fine. The other reason is maybe you hear that, no man, there's money in diamonds, so let's then go there, right? So people go there because there are a lot of money, And in some cases, people are just business people, right? Whereby they understand the rents and cents and how to make things move and where to save, which things to look into. So they're very much, good in terms of being operational, right? So for the person that's passionate, the difficulty that they find is that paycheck that I used to get from you regularly is no longer there because I need to make money for the paycheck to come in, right? So it's very easy to say, yeah, you're working for an organization. You're like, you know what? I don't like how this is being run. I'm like, okay, it's fine, right? Go do your own thing. You tell me how difficult it is to pay the right, to pay the rent, to pay all of these things. So that then it becomes, fairly tricky. Similarly for those that, are driven to it by money, I mean, you can't really just go to a business because of money. And why I say you can't do that, look, the aim of business is to make money, right? We agree, right? But for you to make money long term, there needs to be something else beyond just your drive for money. There needs to be maybe you wanting to change the way things are being done within that industry. Maybe you're having a certain skill that's very unique that the industry can benefit from. So you need to have something else that drives you beyond money, right? And then on the other end, you've got the entrepreneur who is then able to really navigate, what the business landscape. So in difficult times, maybe borrow from the other business to pay, and in good times, you'll use that money to pay back the business. So they tend to be then a bit more successful because they understand business for business. But for the passionate people, the penny drops that actually, I'm in charge of everything, including the money coming in. So it's not as easy. And then for those wanting money, when, you go through a tough cycle, they don't see the money and then they feel disheartened and maybe feel that maybe that industry is not for them. So it's really about effort. You need to put in the right effort for for the right things.
Again, not trying to be controversial, but obviously I know that your answer as diplomatically and pragmatically as possible. Have you seen or observed race or gender being a factor to certain businesses, especially within the early stages within the mining industry, playing towards their success or downfall?
No, honestly not. Right. And why I say that, it's all about your environment. Right. So let's go back. So if I grew up in an environment where, at the dinner table, we talk about business, or, we've got conversations about business, guess what? I'll take that in and I'll be able to do it at a later stage, right? So maybe then you can then look at, different races to say which ones are much more open to having
conversations about
those
money,
conversations about money with children around the table, etc. Maybe that's where you now go from a race perspective. But for me, it's just about the environment, because the race does not determine the environment. Is what you want as, I guess, as a family, the legacy you want to leave, and the transparency that you have to be able to teach the next generation, what's out there, as opposed to them finding it out on the internet or hearing from other people without having the context, right? So for me, it's just really about the environment, because if you surround yourself with driven people, you surround yourself with, people that think long term, guess what? You too will, those things will rub off on you, and you too will start thinking long term and say, okay, actually, it's not about, what I do today, but this investment I'm making today can help me 10 years from now. So if you in that environment, chances of you succeeding are much more greater than being in an environment whereby money comes in, it now needs to go out, or money comes in, now needs to buy this, so I want to show so and so what I've achieved. You'll never really achieve anything. Environment is very important.
Not to say it doesn't play a factor at all.
Not to say it doesn't, but for me, it's just environment. And why I say not to say it doesn't is where we are now, we all have access to the same information, irrespective of race, right? Internet is cheap or free in some places and very cheap in some places. So you need to decide what you want to do. Am I going to buy a bundle that doesn't allow me to research things, whereby I just want to post things? Or am I going to buy a bundle so that, I can actually go out there and understand what the world is all about? And maybe not just the broader world, but maybe I'm into art. Let me then see what the art world is into, so that I too can make a meaningful contribution to art. Because if I do that, guess what? I too will be rewarded one way or another.
And then what do you think has caused us, or what have you heard business owners that aren't at the level of, the organization you're working for kind of complain about. And you coming from both, because I think you're in the middle of, okay, you see this great corporation or organization and what they've accomplished over several decades. And then you see a business that's been running for less than 10 years.
Yeah.
And you're in the middle and you're seeing it all kind of at the same time. And what have you noticed? Are you able to pick up, okay, this one's going to be successful based on 1, 2, 3, and 4. This one is impatient because of 1, 2, 3, and 4. What are those clear things that you think you can pick up almost instantly?
Yeah. You know what's funny, right? There's no formula for success.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
There's none. Like, let me be honest, right? Sometimes you talk
I've been moving in my seat.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
No, sometimes we talk about preparation meets luck
Yeah.
and all of those things. But, I think that thing's quite true, right? Being prepared, knowing what you want, and sometimes you're just lucky, right? There's many business people that have had brilliant ideas, right? But the timing was wrong. So unfortunately, they were unlucky,
Sure.
right? So there's no particular, formula for success.
Yeah.
But I think there's, those several things that need to be in place, i.e. the hygienics. You need to be hardworking, you need to be focused, you need to be able to network. If you don't network, then you need to know the network, so that you can then direct people. Because look, business owners are different, right?
Yeah.
Some people are good behind the desk and giving instructions, and they're very good at that. But when it comes to being a spokesperson, maybe you're not the right person to sell your business. So you know the network, and then you empower somebody else to then be able to do that. But you need to be good at something if you're going to run a business. So, pick your battle, pick your fight, and then no, so and that's what you go into, because again, if you're very technical, right,
Yeah.
and you need to speak to service providers, and you're the right person, but a technical person wouldn't help the marketing team with nothing.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah. And you've always been big on that, where you always say that work with the subject matter experts.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we go to school. That's why we got all this faculty of law, faculty of
Yeah.
commerce, faculty of science. It's there for a reason, because you need to respect and appreciate people for what they do. So that's always been my view. And it's quite difficult when you have people who are versatile, because what do you respect them for everything? Or those parts that you're really looking to, utilize at the time. But mine is always that you say, look, respect subject matter experts, because they've got a better sense of what's happening.
Right.
But also don't doubt your gut or your knowing, but your knowing needs to be backed up by something.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the something is. You
No,
you can
like
decide.
substance.
No, substance. And when I say it needs to be backed up by something, is we all think we know a lot of things.
Yeah.
Right, but have you ever tested that which you know? Right, if you had a conversation, say, I think I know this thing. I want to make jackets that they don't have lapels. What do you think? Right, do some research, because sometimes you know, but it's for yourself, and it's probably not viable for business. But test that knowing that you think you know.
Yeah. You spoke a lot about how the mining industry, 10 years plus, etc. And that speaks on sustainability, right? It's something that you're very passionate about as well. You talk about the sustainability goals, like, it at the back of your hand. Can you just maybe touch on that and how that aligns within the mining industry?
Yeah. So let's look at sustainability, I guess, more broader, right?
Okay.
So when you look at sustainability and what it stands for, it really says, operating your business in a manner that, ensures long-term profitability. Obviously, you need that, i.e., economic performance, whilst, also considering your impact on environment, on the society, and ensuring that you've got governance, right? So if you look at that as a concept, the first part is what we spoke about, business development, right? As you have a business, for your business to be sustainable, you need to have the right things in place. To say, are we thinking long term, 10 years from now, this is where we're going to be, this is how we're going to compete, this is our unique value proposition. And as a result of that, you can't guarantee, give or take, right? We will be making so much money, we'll be employing so many people, boom, boom, boom. So that speaks to your economic impact, right? But because you're not operating in silo, right? So what are you doing to society? With the profits that you're making, are you reinvesting it into society? So that, your business can continue to grow, but also to make sure that, you are not the only ones, reaping the benefits of that.
Yeah.
In the same thing that you're doing, how does that impact the environment? Right? Again, if whether into clothing or into mining, is to say that which I'm doing, is it fast fashion, whereby i.e. it will end up in the landfill, or secondly, if it's mining, what do we then do with the environment once we stop mining? So you also need to look at the impact of, what you do on the environment. And more importantly, then it's about governance, right? So governance in most cases, we're looking at, policies, et cetera, et cetera. And, I think that's quite good that we need to look into it. But also when you look at governance, right, it also looks at opportunities, right? Yeah, what do you mean? Okay, it's fine. So you've got different policies, and one of those policies probably would be the procurement policy, right? It's part of governance, right? By making sure that you do right by that, you can actually afford more and more people an opportunity to work with a big brand or a established company. So governance is equally as important, because by just making sure that you're doing the right thing, you can afford other people opportunity. Governance also speaks to making sure that you abide with the laws of the country in which you operate, right? So for instance, if you operating a business in another jurisdiction, do you have a bank account? Are you CIPC registered? Are you, and because once you do that, the company or the country can engage. You say, okay, we've got this business here. It's making so much. Is it paying tax? Yes, it's paying tax. It's doing this. It's doing this. So again, it's about opportunity and making sure that, you do things the right way. So back to your question around sustainability. So sustainability is really about, looking at the long term, but not just long term, but really doing it in an impactful way by considering all those other elements there that I spoke about earlier on.
Yeah, and understanding that every effort you're making now will contribute, like you said, long term. And especially when it comes to, I had someone last week who spoke about ESG, but had a great focus on the environmental aspect of it, and just saying that right now Botswana is going through its worst drought yet. And how every impact that the environment has, it impacts every industry, including mining as well. And that's something that we don't understand, because then you have mines that shut down, etc. And then that in turn affects the community. So, I mean, when you look at things like that, how do you then explain to business owners or those that are somewhat money driven, or that are maybe 10th generation within their whatever mining industry, whatever they're mining, to explain that every effort that you're making now, if you don't start making plans for the future, your mine is likely to shut down in the next 5 to 10 years, or you're affecting this community in such and such a way.
Yeah. I can't give those guys advice. No, honestly, but maybe let's look at society and maybe what it is I do, right? So yes, again, coming from the mining background, the programs that we have, i.e. enterprise development, looking at the Shining Light Awards competition, which is a jewelry design competition, really speaks to society, right? And with us making sure that, these programs get the requisite attention, i.e. the right, resources, the subject matter experts, we are now ensuring that businesses are being run sustainable. If the businesses are sustainable, it means you as a business owner, you can employ other people, as a virtue of, being part of the De Beers Stanford Seed Program in Botswana, or the De Beers Enterprise Development Program in South Africa, right? So if you do that right, then we're winning. With the jewelry design competition, again, if you are the winner, you go wherever, you get, whatever award, you can then come back and, really run a sustainable business. And if you run a sustainable business, what can you do? You can now employ people, etc., etc., etc. So that's sort of, how I would look at it from a societal perspective, in that most mining companies do these things that, benefit society, but it's not, I guess, in our nature to go out and say, hey, look at what we've done here, look at this, look at this. And maybe something that we need to work on. But I think, we are really driven by the success that we see that comes through from these programs, seeing people, come through enterprise development and running a business, and now they're doing recruitment for new incubatees, and that's quite heartwarming. Or seeing somebody come through the De Beers Shining Light Awards competition and going out there and you maybe teaching other students or running their own business. For me, that is success because they can then impact, because the ultimate thing is impact, right?
Yeah.
They can then impact society and how we think and how we view things and how we better appreciate the efforts from mining.
Yeah. I've been privileged enough to see you talk about the Shining Light Awards, and you always talk, and I remember there was a student who had asked you, but why are you doing this? What's Ria's benefiting from it? And you spoke again about sustainability, so can you maybe share and touch on that?
So why do we do the
you,
competition?
I remember you said, we're not benefiting anything, we're trying to give back to you. And I thought, okay.
Yeah, no, and it really is that. I mean, because if you look at, what I said earlier on, to say you can have all the minerals, right? But if you don't consume them, then it's next to nothing. But also when you look at the concept of beneficiation, which you say add value, right? From a business perspective, we're very, intentional about benefiting or adding value, as much value as we can locally. And then competitions like the Shining a Light Awards allow us to do that. And you ask why we do that. Remember, we're a mining company. So we mine and that's our primary focus. So when we work with others, it's for them to also add value to the pipeline, which then ultimately, what's the ultimate goal is to make you the recipient a happy person. Hopefully, a diamond ring is coming your way soon, or a diamond neck piece. But that's really what we're all about. Making diamond dreams a lasting reality.
Yeah. Making diamond dreams a lasting reality. My goodness.
Comes out like that.
And I appreciate how young people are involved in the conversation as well. And I know there's the work integrated learning program. There's just so many things actually that you guys have been part of. Yeah. And I love how you've been pushing this youthful agenda and trying to integrate as many young people as possible in this industry that has often seemed to be for, again, a certain race or for really, really old people with a lot of money. But now it's like saying, hey, it's possible.
Yes. No, it is possible. And look, we talk about evolution, right? And, we can go into evolution, dinosaurs and all of those things. But I think that's also evolution of the minds, right? And evolution of how we do things. I think like any other company or any other entity, we also are evolving with the times. And as part of that evolution, you now look at, things that ordinarily you probably would not have partook in, but now you partake in them because you understand the impact that can have on society. Again, sustainability, right?
Right. Yeah, and speaking again about sustainability, like I mentioned, your outfit is really great.
Thank you.
You wanted to be a fashion designer. Let's talk about what you're wearing and why it's so. I'm bringing it up because I think the brand which you're wearing, and you'll tell us a bit about, speaks a lot about. It's like an African premium luxury clothing brand, and that's how I viewed it, because you're talking about stuff that lasts for a long time.
Thank you.
So can you maybe touch on that particular brand?
Yes, so the brand I'm partner in is Everyday Bespoke. So
I love how you look into the camera.
No, you must check. Instagram, Facebook, we are there, right? One word, Everyday Bespoke, right? So
you got the cameraman laughing.
Yeah, no, it needs to be there. So again, I spoke about my mother, impact, etc. So again, we sort of grew up within the space of clothing, selling clothing, etc., etc. So this we started, to register in governance around 2016.
Yeah.
And really the aim was to be able to make custom, clothing at a competitive price. Right. So it took a while for us to get there. And why custom clothing at a competitive price is the approach we take in terms of, buying or, just, working with the customers to make sure that the materials that we use are really, the best. And why do we want only the best fabric? Because it allows for you to wear it over a longer period of time. In some cases, this can then also be like, that piece that you keep in your wardrobe, and, it's a complementary piece. It's it's something that you keep there for quite a while. So that's been our approach. And because of that approach, it then means that all the fabric that we source is of a slightly higher quality, with, prices also, representing the quality that that goes into it. It represents the workmanship that goes into it.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's not just about the quality of the fabric or the pricing. It's really about the individuality, because the way we approach it is to make sure that we do something custom for you, which will then make you stand out from the rest. And as I said, when we started, it's about really making custom clothing at a competitive rate. Because if you just think about it, for you to go and do a custom suit, I mean a proper custom suit, it can be a very expensive exercise. But we've really entered the market to make it, something that's feasible and, something that's meaningful, so that you too can then invest in it, because it's really an
Yeah.
investment within yourself.
Yeah. And in a world of fast fashion, which is not sustainable.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is not sustainable. It's important, I think, to actually support organizations or businesses, and not to try to endorse you, but it's just on reflection of it that fast fashion does impact communities very negatively. It impacts the environment negatively. And if we can have a greater surgence of brands like yours to say that, okay, but it's a one-time investment, and then you can keep, and it's actually yours.
and it's yours, just made for you,
It was
and
made for
with
you.
all the different
Yeah.
nuances that go into you. And then when I say nuances that go into you, sometimes you can be tall, but you don't have a wide waist, so now you have to buy a bigger size and you have to readjust it. Is it really for you, like really for you? But if you come through wheel and measure, you make sure that we take the gravitas of the customer, and making sure that the waist is exactly.
I love how you're just trying to graze over the topic.
Yeah, where it needs to be. No, because again, with any business, right, you need to solve a societal problem.
Yeah.
Right. What societal problem are we solving? We're making custom, clothing, quality custom clothing at a competitive price.
Yeah.
Just for you.
Yeah. And on all of this, to bring up to say that I've been exploring this concept of purpose again. And I think it's so interesting how you didn't say to yourself, because I'm in mining, I'm good. That's all I'm going to be doing throughout. You didn't say that, okay, I wanted to be a fashion designer, but I'm just going to leave that out because this is all I'm going to be doing, and I've been doing it for 20 years. And I think that speaks to how dynamic we are, the human nature, how dynamic we are, and how purpose kind of goes beyond what we think it could possibly be.
Yeah.
And I think being an African man as well, I think that is just so fascinating to me, that you're not literally setting your limitations for yourself and you're exploring more. So is there more that you're yet to explore? I don't know. The lecturing thing, I never get up. Is there more that you're yet to explore about yourself as the brand, Kagiso Fredericks?
Yeah, wow, okay. Look, I think, with purpose, to what I said earlier on, is really about appreciating life and everything it gives you. And when I say everything it gives you, I think in some cases you grow up just knowing that you can read, English very well, and that's where you leave it, right? If you thought about writing it and, really stretching it. So I think, in my case, why I always try and look for the next is, growing up in apartheid South Africa. So now you can guess my age. Growing up in apartheid South Africa, and I think by, the early 80s, we were playing cricket. I mean, can you think about people in the township playing cricket, right?
Yeah.
So just having that as the background to your story, that, this is a very expensive sport. It's a very elitist sport. But this is sort of, where I dabble, where most people play football. That's sort of, the sport I sort of grew up into, the exposure that gives you still in the 80s, going into the 90s, making sure that, you see people as equals as opposed to being better than you. You then go into the space and you get exposed to more and more things. Your purpose still remains there, but it evolves, right? It's not now limited, right? So you're asking, is there more to me than just now? Look, my passion for now, not for now, but really moving forward, is really in academia.
Yeah.
And why academia? Funny enough, both sides of my grandparents were teachers, right? My dad is working for an electrical company in Sevishuan, but yeah, he does also some lecturing there as well. So my aspirations eventually is to go into academia space and contributing in that manner, because if I contribute, in that platform, I'm not just reaching those few people within the different programs that I'm looking into. I can actually reach more and more people in terms of, my outlook or my appreciation about whatever subject matter I'll be speaking to.
Yeah. Like you mentioned that, you've been around, from apartheid to post to now. And I'm sure you have a greater vision of what's going to happen within the mining industry and with now fashion, I guess, and now academia. What would you say has been your greatest lesson and your greatest observation in terms of what ties everything together for you?
Information. Right. And why I say information is information about that industry that you're in, other industries does help you. And I want to say technology, but technology is quite broad because with information you can then employ the right technology, right? I guess with life, everything's a cycle.
Yeah.
It repeats itself. What we're seeing now was probably seen in the early 1920s, right? Whereby you've had like protracted years of low economic growth up until, a boom cycle started again. So that's what we're seeing, unfortunately. What's on the horizon, again, like history would have it, there will be an upswing. When will the upswing happen? That's a bit difficult to say, but probably in the new year. But, are there any other trends? Again, it's very difficult to say without having the right information, right? So my sense is whatever you're in, is it academia, is it business, make sure you've got information about the industry that you're in. Use that information then to plan what you want to do for the next 5 years, 10 years, and that's how you basically survive.
Yeah. Oh, this has been great. An hour passes by so quickly, I swear. But this has been such an interesting conversation. I'm glad we've managed to package a lot of things in one, like I had in mind. Thank you for answering questions that you didn't know were coming.
Yeah.
As usual at this point.
I tried. I mean, it's a standard.
It's really in you, hey? You can't fake it. If you know, like you said, information. If you actually take time to invest yourself the information and learn it and actually understand it and practicalize it if you can, then it just becomes, it's almost very instant with you, It's like the keyword, beneficiation. Okay, I'm ready.
Yeah. But, and I think, what one is learning is just know that you don't know everything, right? And then you always go out there and have, engagements with, people from finance, people in the media space. You just have, engagements to learn more. And when you learn, you then reflect, oh, okay, I didn't think about that. And that's why you can always be adaptable to any situation. But if you're rigid in your approach, guess what? You're missing an opportunity to learn. And once you miss that, it's an opportunity missed. Actually, it's a wasted opportunity.
Sure. Amazing. Thank you so much, Kagiso. It's been a pleasure. Never stop learning. Always keep evolving and adapting.
Definitely. That's how you grow. Yeah. And don't be afraid of failure as well. Right?
Whew, yeah.
No, honestly, don't be afraid of failure. Yeah. The only people that fail are people who do things. If you've never failed, you've never done anything. So don't be afraid of failure. Go out there, do things. But when you fail, you need to learn something, right? They say fail is first action in learning. So there needs to be learning with it, right?
The acronym
first action in learning, right? So that's what it stands for. So with anything that you go through, be it you have to repeat a course at school or you've done a mistake, learn from it, including recessions. And that's what I'm learning from, being in the mining industry. Yeah. We learn from recessions.
Sure.
So that when we face the next one, we try and see what we can do differently from what we did the last time. So if you're failing and you're not taking any learning from that lesson, it will repeat itself until it's learned. Yeah.
Do you want to be here for another hour and talk about that or next episode?
Next episode.
Thank you so much, Kagiso, and thank you all for joining. I look forward to seeing your comments and getting your feedback. See you next time.